welcome. This is another edition or episode of the All Things Black podcast. I'm your host, Daryl Barnes, and today I do have some very, very exciting guests, and we're going to be talking to them to find out more about their work and what they've been doing behind the scenes and what led them up to this particular work. I have none other than Tim Blessed with me, and who's the author of the book, and
Yes.
Mike Larisha. Correct me if
Yeah,
I'm
you
messing
got it.
up.
You got it both
Larisha.
times. Thank you.
Exactly, who's an award-winning illustrator of this book, and he's many other work, and we're going to talk about his other works on his particular website and things like that. So, welcome, you guys. Welcome to the All Things Black podcast.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Great to be here.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
How's everybody doing?
Doing great, man. Everybody's healthy. You know what I mean? Kids are healthy. The book's about to be launched. So we're excited. We are very excited to be here and alive and breathing, man. Every day that there's breath in my lungs, I give thanks. And I'm glad that I'm here.
Gotcha. There's the blessed is not the last name for no reason, right?
Exactly.
You
Yes,
know,
true indeed. Give
Mike.
thanks.
Mike, how about yourself?
Well, I'm doing good. This is a pretty exciting time for us right now because we're gearing up for this major launch of this book. I mean, this is one of those bucket list, items that are going on in real time. So I'm thrilled. All's good. Just excited and happy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for those that will listen to this particular podcast episode, make sure that you share. If you're using Apple Podcasts, make sure that you go to the comment section, leave a comment and a review about this particular episode. Share, and share, as much as you possibly can, especially for these two gentlemen here who have some phenomenal work that they're actually doing. So we're actually going to get into it. Um, and correct me again if I'm pronouncing the name of the book right. It's Planeta.
Yeah. Planeta. Planeta.
Planeta Blue.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
got you. Thank
Planeta
you for the
Blue, Rise
correction.
of Agoo. Yes,
There
sir.
we go. Thank you for the correction, by the way.
No
Um,
worries.
what was it that, and I'm talking to Tim Blau, what was it that inspired you to come up with this particular work, right? What is it that led you up to wanting to write this particular book? And where did you get your cast of characters from?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, what inspired me was my children, man. You know, having black young men and now Afro Latina daughter, and telling them these bedtime stories at night. It just kind of stuck with me. This story specifically just stuck with me, where I wanted to continue to tell this story. And at the time when I started writing this, which was now probably going about 6 years ago, in pre Black Panther movie, there wasn't a lot of black superheroes, if you will. There wasn't a lot of representation to the point where we see now, which is great. There's definitely been a trend towards having more people tell their stories. As we know, everybody's stories should be told. And, I came up in a time when our stories weren't being told that often. And people of color stories. And I was born out in West Africa and in Cape Verde Islands, immigrated to the United States when I was 3, and really would want to see those characters. I always was reading comics, watching anime and cartoons. So that was actually my entry point into reading. I remember just reading comics, and then it was the autobiography of Malcolm X. Those are the two things that really had me actually wanting to read on my own. Everything else was what the teacher was assigning in school. And so when I was telling the story to my children at the time, and I still am a hip hop artist, I was always making music, socially conscious hip hop music. But all of a sudden I was like, I felt like I had something. You can always tell as an artist when something feels right, that it passes your own test, right? It's always the audience will ultimately be the ones that decide if they like it or not. But there's been times in the past where I wrote a rhyme or whatever, and I'm just like, that's just for me. It's not for the world. It's not ready for the world. But this story felt like they had something there. And so I wanted to really put something out there that not only spoke to the plight of young people, youth of color, which as a youth advocate and a youth worker, I worked for many different youth organizations throughout my career. So I always say, you know, during the daytime, I'm doing the nonprofit work, and then at night, I put on my cape and, you know, head to the stage and become a super MC. And the whole idea is that, like, I wanted a story that could talk to these young people that I knew a lot about. And even the first scene takes place in New Bedford, Massachusetts, where I grew up. And these characters are characters that I know really well. Like, one of the characters is Angel. And for those that know any angels out there, they're far from being an angel, right? They're good people, but they're, you know, they're mischievous. And this is the character that I've known and loved and seen, and people that I've grown up with, and the youth that I was serving. And then I was like, yeah, let's put these young people in this character. You know, Tumez, another young man of color who's Cape Verdean like me. So another person who I really know, and I wanted my sons to see that. And then there's the heroine, the main character is Laris, who's an Afro Latina character, and she's just powerful. You know, once again, taking these characters from people who I know and know could rise to the occasion, because there's, you know, some serious issues happening here, mainly the destruction of the planet, the environment, by oil tycoon billionaire turned evil world conqueror. And so there's some similarities, and then there's the fantasy aspect with the animals, and then the other characters. So there's four main protagonists, four main characters. Is Tyler, which was this young man from Indiana, white kid, and he was a good friend of mine, or I took the character loosely from a good friend of mine growing up in New Bedford, who had come, you know, and moved from Indiana. And so these young people go off on this journey where they have to represent humanity as the animals are trying to decide if they're going to completely wipe out the human race. And luckily, we got some real strong youth that are able to rise to the occasion.
That was one heck of an answer. I like it though.
Yeah.
So you did mention Cape Verdean. You also are Guinea-Bissau.
Yeah,
Did
I
you?
was born in Guinea-Bissau. Yeah,
Okay.
true indeed. West Africa, and those two countries, for those that don't know, they border Senegal and the other Guinea Conakry, sister cities. And you know, I would always romanticize about Guinea-Bissau, where I was born, which is on actually the west coast. Cape Verde is a group of 10 islands off the west coast, and you know, and I was born there because my father was working out there. And when I got a chance to finally go back, because I left when I was 3 years old. When I got a chance to go back, even though like it felt like home, Guinea-Bissau, I realized like Cape Verde is really where I'm from. So I'm Cape Verdean, born in Guinea-Bissau, but we sister countries, and we got the amazing revolutionary leader Amilcar Cabral, who helped us get our independence back in 1975. And for those that don't know, please look him up. And actually, one of the characters, Tume, his last name is Cabral, inspired by Amilcar Cabral, the revolutionary leader that helped us gain our independence, and honestly helped even the Portuguese people, who are the colonizers of Cape Verde and Guinea-Bissau, help them get their freedom too, because that fight for independence was what helped even the Portuguese people get rid of their dictatorship, this guy Salazar. So that fight was almost like a Vietnam War fight for Portugal, and we came out on top, man. So it's a good outcome.
So it
Even
sounds like, to a degree, that you have some kind of revolutionary spirit mixed in your blood. You know, you got you got the
yeah,
background, you got the Cape Verdean, you got the Guinea-Bissau. You grew up, you know, watching different types of you know, cartoons, and you got all this different rich history that kind of combined and just kind of meshed into this work. That is what it sounded like. Uh,
yes, sir.
I'm gonna ping pong between you two guys, so I'm gonna come to Mike next. Um, Mike, when you so again, just a little bit of, you know, background from you. Um, First of all, it seems like you guys have been knowing each other for a while, and so as you knew, or if you did know that Tim was doing this work, how inspired were you to jump on board this project with your background in illustration and things like that?
Well, we've actually Tim, was it 2020? Is that when we met, or was it 2019?
I think it was 19.
So we met because of this. It was the story we tend to tell is that my neighbor was friends with Tim, and she knew that he was working on this book. And she's like, I've got this neighbor who's an artist, you know? And so she connected us, and both of us were sort of cautious about, you know, oh, sure, he wrote, and I'm like, he wrote a book. Everybody's written a book. And he's like, oh, he's an artist. Everybody says they're an artist. But when we met, we clicked so well. And we're just sort of on the same wavelength with a lot of stuff, you know, in terms of our, you know, our values, our lifestyles and things like that. And we connected very easily. And I was, you know, completely sold on the book. You know, he gave me the pitch and he kind of gave me the whole idea and what was going on. But when I actually read the whole thing is when, you know, he gave me the book, and I could tell that this was not only going to be a project that I was going to enjoy doing, which is something that's important for every artist who's going to take on a very large project, but it was something that had a lot of real content and purpose to it. And as an artist, you know, when you're selecting things to do, ideally you're picking things that really have purpose and can reach people, and you know, you're putting something out into the world that's making it better in some way. So it wasn't hard for me to recognize that, and because we got along so well, it was just a no-brainer to get involved, you know.
Okay. I do like that. So so it sounds like it became very easy for you to begin to draft the, you know, the characters in terms of the illustrations and things like that. It was very easy. So it's almost like this was something that was, I forget the word that I'm trying to, you know, I'm trying to use for it, but it's almost like it was supposed to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
might be the
Yeah,
word.
it's almost
yeah,
like
no,
it was
I
supposed
mean,
to happen.
yeah, no, there was we definitely like immediately developed this really good shorthand in terms of, you know, he would describe his ideas and I would, you know, try to visualize these things, and then we go back and forth to sort of refine what we were doing. But you know, one of the best parts about working with him is that he really values my own creative intuition, and so there's not a lot of restrictive, um, you know, there's not a lot of restrictive situations going on there. So it allows me to really enjoy what I'm doing and be a little bit more flexible and take some risks too. Um, so yeah, and like I said, when you know, I've been doing freelance for a long time, and it's sort of like buying a house when you walk in and you just know that's the house you want to buy. Like it's like when you work with somebody, you can tell like, hey, this is actually someone I'm going to enjoy working with. We're going to actually be collaborating. It's not like I'm just being hired to do something. It really feels like that real collaboration. And so when you feel that, you got to like sort of make a choice, because that's an opportunity to do something really special.
And that almost allows you to do your best work.
Oh,
At
absolutely.
least
Yeah.
the way I feel about it, right? It allows you to do your best work. You got this great connection. You
Mhm.
got, you know, these two individuals that have the same values, almost pretty much the same background and things like that. So the work seems to, you know, come kind of easy because I used to program and do music and stuff like that. So when I found an
Mhm.
artist that fit my core values, it was just easy to go ahead and knock out a few beats for him and stuff like that. That was nothing, right?
Yeah, because you build that trust immediately, you know, and then you know you can count on each other to do what you're doing, you know, your role or whatever it is.
Gotcha. I will say when I did go over the website and I scrolled down to the bottom where they have you have the YouTube link
Mhm.
to the intro of it, I was blown away. Like it was like, you know, because the music meshed with very well, and you got a chance to look at the characters in real time, so to speak, um, acting out some of the things that they're going to be acting out in the book, right? And I was
Mhm.
like, wow, this is interesting. So, and I did tell a few people about the project, and then when I mentioned kind of Dark Horse, which is what we're going to get into a little bit later, when I mentioned that, it was like, really, Dark Horse, you know, books. Wow, they was, you know, because they have a large collection of a lot of Dark Horse books,
Yeah.
Mhm.
so they were very excited about that, right? And so they're definitely keeping an eye out on, you know, what's going on and things like that, and definitely told me that they want to purchase the book. So I'm like, okay, let me know when that's going to happen,
Mhm.
because I definitely want to, you know, get your take on, the whole of the book once you get, once you finish reading it. But but Tim, so activism, um, you have your music along with that, and I'm assuming that there's also um, very conscious, um, lyrics in the music that you do produce, right?
Yeah.
And how long have you actually been doing music? And let me ask you guys, by the way, once since I'm on that, in the current climate that we're in right now, it's so easy for people to just throw away stuff, right? Throw away music.
Yeah.
I forget what Prince actually called it, microwave or something like that. Music where you just it's not long lasting, right? Just
Yeah.
throw it away. It's very easy to do that, and you can actually come up pretty quick and get your money and whatnot, right? Uh, have you found that doing this type of um, music, artwork, things like that is a little bit more difficult because of the fact that you do have some values and you have some a messaging in the music as well as the books? Has it been kind of difficult for you guys for people to kind of gravitate towards it?
Um, Honestly, it's been like most things. It's finding the audience is always the, I think the hardest thing is being able to get into a space where your people are there. And so for me, just coming up in a time, I came up during the golden age of hip hop, and so for me, Rakim Allah is the GOAT. You know what I mean? Like that's the greatest of all time. And so from Public Enemy, Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, Wu Tang, like what I mean, like as we go through, so 92 through 96 was when I was at UMass, and so living through Pac getting shot and killed, living through Biggie getting shot and killed, and knowing what I was thinking about that as an MC at the time, who, like in retrospect, like these dudes obviously were on a whole other range, but we were in the ciphers at that time. So these were my competitors in my mind, right? And so to have that opinion that like, damn, like this brother, even though, I'm in the East Coast and some brothers are like, to be honest, like laughing at Pac got killed. And I'm just like, what are y'all talking about? Another black man's dead. You know what I mean? Just because there was that rivalry, let's say, you know what I mean? And Pac was wilding, right? Because we all know, those of us who went through, like, he was wilding. But how are you gonna laugh at a brother man, black man getting killed? He didn't deserve that. And obviously, as time went on, he got his due for being one of the greats, right? And then when Biggie died, you're seeing like, damn, like here's good music that's never going to be made again, like, what I mean? So I say all that to say that my lyrics, just because I had KRS-One as in the back, like he was the Drake of the time, you know what I'm saying? Like he was at the top, like that's who you were trying to be like, you know what I mean? And you had like Keith Murray, your mythological niggas is comical, you know what I mean? Like lyrics mattered, vocabulary mattered. So when I was in school, I was trying to put it down, the lyrics that were solid, that had substance, that meant something. That wasn't just saying something just to say. And it was never, there was this whole thing like keep it real, right? So when hip hop really started shifting to being more street, so even though, yeah, I grew up in the projects, whatever, but I had a dope household, you know what I mean? Moms are like, stay in the house, you know what I mean? And so I had family around me. So even though we see this, that wasn't my lifestyle, right? And so even though the music shifted, and even though we were pitching at the time, the name of the group was Busted Fro, we decided like we're just gonna go independent, because these labels, wanted us to be like 50 Cent, you know what I mean? Or they didn't know how to package us. Like, after 90, like 96, things just shifted to be very street heavy. And we know there's always been a street element to hip hop, but there was like a spectrum of things, you know what I mean? From, Arrested Development, you could go on to, Cool G Rap and DJ Polo, you know what I mean? There's a wide spectrum of what hip hop was at the time. And then all of a sudden it really went real street. And we were just like, well, we're just going to keep doing our own thing. And it was good and lucky that we generated our own things. Like we, in New Bedford, we had a festival, hip hop festival called Third Eye Open. And so every summer we are getting artists locally and international. So Slick Rick came through and KRS came through and others. But we also were allowing the youth and our band, right, to go up there and give our message, speak truth to power, sometimes to our own detriment. But we created, I guess, an audience so that we can make a living out of it. And I think that's what the message I try to tell the youth all the time. Like, yeah, it's great that some of these guys are able to be millionaires or billionaire moguls or whatever. But at the end of the day, as an artist, or for me, being that, yeah, money matters, but it's not the first and only thing. It's more important that I'm able to make a living out of this, and I'm able to, move my units, whether it's CDs or downloads, and now this book. And that's
Right,
what's so
right.
great marrying. And the last thing I'll say is marrying the two. So we're able to go into schools because my music is able to be clean. I can omit a few words here and there, and it's easy enough because that's not the substance, right? And I can go into schools and start off with a track and then hit them with the book, and the kids love it, you know what I mean? Because kids love hip hop, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a power to it. It's still a youthful energy and a youthful voice, and they still, like always, I think people are always going to respond to poetry. You know what I mean? And so you have the young kids still being like, oh, all right, that's not, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I like Jay Boogie with a hoodie, but yo, this dude's coming with bars, right? And so luckily the youth is still getting it. And then you'll even have like the old white dudes come through like, oh, I never thought hip hop could be so articulate. You know what I mean? And yeah, I
Wow.
mean, so yeah, so you're able to reach folks with just the artistry of just quality music. And so that's been what I've always grounded myself on, and just been like, hey, I'm just gonna, do what I always do. And luckily it's worked out.
So right now, you my hip hop brother. I'm just
Right.
telling you right now, I claim you, brother. You
All right.
you my hip
Yes,
hop
sir,
brother right
man.
now, because I grew up in that era, man. And I don't want to be long winded about any of that, but I've seen the shift myself. I was heavy on the conscious rap, right?
Right.
You're talking X Clan, Poor Righteous Teachers, KRS-One. You
Right.
see what I'm saying? Public
Yes, sir.
Enemy, King Son. All of these different people that
Yeah.
was out there, man. It was really spitting some very enlightening information. And I think the thing was that um, the record companies and the industry started to recognize the shift in the mindset of the youth,
Hmm.
right? Because once you can indoctrinate or instill some very high quality information into the youth is going to take that and then proceed and move forward in creating what what they're feeding on.
Yeah.
So they knew that, so they had to make a shift. They had to definitely make a shift because there was too many people that were coming on board that were giving very conscious messages in their music, right? They had to
Mhm.
make that shift. It was done very methodically and
Yeah.
very
Intentionally. I
cold, very
agree.
maliciously, right?
Yeah.
But I remember every last bit of it. I go back. I still got my King Son and all that kind of stuff, and I love it. I go back and listen to it 100% of the time. But
Dope.
I thought that's wonderful, man, and being able to articulate that. Another thing about it too is the fact I think that's great marketing, right? You
Right.
do shows and you got your book with you,
Yeah.
and because you can make the connection to the youth, because the graphic novel is young adult, right?
Yes.
More than likely they're definitely going to go and pick it up, and they're going to talk about it a little bit more because they have their tight knit circles, so they're going to talk about it way more than somebody my age would talk about that information, right?
Mm. Yeah.
I'm a little bit older. You see the gray hairs and the whiskers and
Yeah.
whatnot, right? But yeah, man. So I thank you for that and bringing up that history and talking about all of that. And but Mike, what would you say in addition to that?
Well, I mean, going back to the original question in terms of you saying like throwaway kind of art content, things like that, because I think I absolutely agree too with like the state of just I think about like TV and movies, how things come out, it's a big deal, and then you just forget about it. It could be the biggest thing. So there's sort of that sense of like, well, how do you create something that has longevity, and that people will talk about and spread, and how do you get it to the right people? And so that's been sort of one of the challenges in any like art endeavor, like Tim was saying, finding your audience. But we've been very lucky when we have gone to like comic conventions, and I feel like anybody that gets in front of the book and looks at it is automatically intrigued. So there's sort of this like once we actually somebody's holding it and looking at it, it's not a hard sell for people to be like, wow, this is unusual. This is a little different. Um, and so a lot of it I think has to do with actually getting out there, talking to people, getting people to get to know us and sort of like where we're coming from. And because we kind of talk about it as a journey, because this is the book one of several books. So it's like, hey, get on board for this journey we're going to go on. It's worth it. It's going to be inspiring, might be enlightening. And I think those are the kinds of things that do have longevity, is things that really speak to people. It's not just pure entertainment. So I guess our challenge ongoing is to really just get it in front of people and the right people, and constantly introducing people to Planeta Blu whenever we can.
I want to add that, Mike's illustrations, y'all, check it out. If you don't know, like the quality of art, I think what's great, what Mike's speaking is real, where people are seeing, they're holding this book and they're like, wait, like this is like this must have taken you all a long time. And it's like, yeah, it did, because we wanted to put out a quality product. And just like music, you can't just create it really quick. It's going to sound like it's throwaway, right? It's just disposable. And this is not. This is something that you're going to want to have in your collection. We also had these limited edition hardcover copies that people invested in. You know what I mean? Those joints were $50 a pop. You know what I mean? And people wanted them because they saw that this is something that they want to have in their collection, because the art looks amazing. The way that Mike, I know that part of the reason why we got Dark Horses, because the way that Mike was drawing, these animals, and just the color, the way that things just are popping out of the pages, made people want to like look at it and be like, oh, okay, and there's substance. And as soon as they like read a little bit of it, they're like, oh, this is, it's just like when you hear someone rap or sing, you're like, oh, okay, this person's actually saying something. This is beyond just like, some pop soda pop music. And so that's what's dope about this, which as a comic book reader, I go to comic book stores all the time, and sometimes the art, you're looking at it and you're like, you know what I mean? It just looks like everything else. I'm gravitating to the things that look a little different and still have that quality to them. And that's what this book has. And, a big shout out to Mike for that, because he really, he drove it home.
I would agree, because that definitely captured my attention, and then it made me go to Mike's website. I was like, I was forced to go to his website, right, to check out the rest of his work, and I was like, damn, okay, you know what I mean? I mean, it's really, it really draws you in. And like, again, when you go to your guys' website, Planeta Blu, when you go to the website and you look at just the visual part of it, right? We're just talking about just the graphics and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it speaks for itself, right? And like I said, when you look at the YouTube, the short that you guys put up there for
Yeah, trailer. Yeah, yeah.
you I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. So so at this point, anybody, make sure that you guys go to their website, Planeta Blu, and look over the whole website. I think there's merch on there as well.
Yeah.
All of that, right? So you definitely want to do that, man. This is a great work. So before we get into the Dark Horse thing, I want to ask a couple of other questions though. So in the book though, you referenced it already. You talked about the animals, right?
Yeah.
Why was it so important for you guys to add the animal kingdom into this story? Why was that such an important piece to do something like that?
Yeah, man. I mean, as a poet, I take that responsibility serious. And so, for someone who's always learning, and I will be a lifelong learner, I go to conferences, man, and I learn about things, especially, going now some years back, thinking like 2007, I went to this conference called Connecting for Change, and I learned about the bees, right? That the bees were no longer going back to their hives. And I was just like, what's going on? It's called colony collapse disorder. And I was like, yo, like, we have this connection to the bee. And a lot of people understand that, if the bees die, we die, because they pollinate most of the things we eat. And so I'm like, I am the bee. Pollinate truth if you choose to see. Pollinate the youth to truly be free. Pollinate, love, let's all agree. I am the bee. Now, keystone species, we need these bees, honey. They pollinate most of the things you eat. Funny, they do this for free without a fee. Billions in produce produced nationally. Now, billions of bees have abandoned their hives. If they disappear in 4 years, human race will die. That's a quote from the famous scientist Einstein. It's logical to anyone with half a mind, man. It's horrible where you think you're gonna run and hide. It's possible for us to combine and stop these lives. Respect all lives, wherever it resides, of the plant, algae, bacteria, a fungi. That's right. It's time for us to vocalize, because if the bees die, then we too die. That's right. It's time for us to strategize, because if the bees die, then we too die. I am the bee. Pollinate truth if you choose to see. Pollinate the youth to truly be free. Pollinate love, let's all agree. I am the bee. Say, I am the bee, right? So knowing that we're connected, everything is connected. And when you look out, and I'm like looking at nature, and I grew up like concrete, the concrete jungle, like there wasn't a lot of trees. But when I went out to UMass Amherst, like that's Western Massachusetts, so there's more trees. And I remember how like good I felt just being out in nature, or when I went visited my home country of Cape Verde and like climbing up volcanoes, how good I felt at the beach, grounding my feet, on the sand, and letting the salt water hit me. All those things made me realize that like we have to return to the source. Like there's a source, and the source is nature. Like we are nature, man is nature. And so and I started thinking like, just because I tell these stories to my kids, and because, they were younger at the time, it was natural to be like, wow, what if, these young people, just like a million times before, I'm over here, with the youth at the beach doing like a scavenger hunt thing where they're picking up wampum shells. And I'm like, yo, what if like all of a sudden, like they're spraying stuff overhead, the kids start coughing, and then the kids are like, what's going on? And then because their feet is in the salt water, it protects them from the effects of the spray. And now these kids are looking to the side, and they're seeing like what they think are shark fins coming at them, and they're just like in this surreal slow motion, like what's going on? They get knocked on the water, and it's the dolphin, Amethyst, the dolphin tribe, that's like, you guys are being summoned, we're here to rescue you, but now you have to represent what's happening, represent the human nation, the human race in this trial. And so for me, it's like, that's kind of, if the animals could, I think they would be attacking us like yesterday, you know what I mean? Because we are destroying the planet. You see it every day. You see what's happening, just outside your window, never mind the Amazon rainforest, or what's going on, a few years back, like, Australia was on fire, but everywhere is on fire now, right? So the world's on fire. And what are we going to do about it? Just go buy more things? No, like we got to stop, pause for the cause, and then do something about it. And so for me, that's what was baked in. And I think it's important to say that I allowed the story to almost like tell itself, you know what I mean? And at first, and I tell Mike this all the time, like eventually they go and rescue some animals out of a zoo. And that wasn't even like meant to happen. I never thought that was going to happen, but that was just the way the story was telling itself. And so I just allowed myself to be put in a state where I'm, blocking myself from my kids and my wife and everything that's going on. And I'm just like, okay, what is, like literally closing my eyes, like what happens next, and asking what's happening next. And granted, yeah, I'm adding this, I'm putting my piece to it, but anybody who's an artist knows sometimes you're just in the flow. Like this thing is just coming through me, and I'm just writing down what I see, and then maybe adding some details. And so I always tell this, and it ain't like I'm super special, because we all have these abilities, right, to tap into these senses. And it was, this story needed to get told. What I mean? I wanted to keep doing music, you know what I mean? But the story was like, nah, man, you got to put this book out. And that's why I think it took so long, was because at some point I had to leave the music and just go and finish this book. And that's why it's important, is for people to get the entertainment. KRS-One talks about edutainment all the time, you know what I mean? So you're getting the entertainment, you're seeing the colors, you're getting the action, because there's a lot of action. Kids are fighting, they're picking up swords, and they're getting the powers of the animals. But there's this message that's underlying, that's really telling this deeper story, that we got to change our ways, and we got to step up. We got to really, it's a call to action, honestly, to do something different. And the youth, as we know, are always at the forefront of any movement.
Gotcha. I was definitely gonna mention something in that regards, but two things. And Mike, I want you to actually start first, and then Tim, you follow up. I think the main heroine you mentioned was Lars, right?
Yeah.
Afro Latina.
Yes.
Two things. So again, this would be Mike. You would be first,
Yeah.
Okay.
but the question goes. The question is two questions. The questions goes as follows: Why was it such important? Why was there such an importance to make the main character or the main heroine a female? Number one, a
Mm.
young lady, and how much attention, Mike, that you had to focus on making sure that that main character was right. Because, like I say, when you look at, I'm assuming that's Tim. When you look in the background,
Yeah, yeah, you got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I'm assuming that's her. So how much more attention and focus did you have to make sure that she was right?
Well, I mean, it, the story itself is all Tim's vision. So, in terms of the importance of why Laura is the main character, I'll let him answer that. I know why that
Right,
is the case,
exactly.
but I'll let him answer that because it's his baby, literally. So, um, but there was a lot of attention, especially because when we first started working together, I did a lot of concept work before I jumped into really plotting out the book and all that stuff. So again, whenever you sort of collaborate with somebody who has the vision, the initial vision that you're trying to put onto paper, you work with them to get them to articulate exactly what it is they see when they imagine that character. So, we did a lot of back and forth, a lot, especially with her hair, making sure that the texture of the hair looked the way that he wanted it to look. Is very, Tim's very, very serious about representation and making sure that we do this the right way. And we had a lot of conversations about that just in the beginning stages, so that when I went in and really started working on the book, we'd already established the style and how we were going to handle it. So I guess the way I would say is that it was a real priority in creating characters and setting the style and tone of the book. But Tim, you should jump in
So
about
so
Lara's
so
question because
so 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 you had to go through several revisions to make sure that that character was um exact to Tim's vision
yeah,
in that.
because you've got sort of a conversation that happens where it's like Tim would give me the prompts and then I would interpret those prompts, and then you say, okay, well, based on, maybe I didn't give you exactly what I thought I was giving you, and so you go back and forth, and then that's how you slowly build up these characters, so that at the end of the day it's something that he feels is representing what his vision was. Obviously, if I have input, I'll say that, but my goal as a designer essentially is to get to that finish line where he feels like, okay, yeah, this is what I imagine this would actually look like. That's why I brought in somebody who's a visual artist to help me get to that stage.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And Tim.
Yeah, and Mike was great, man, throughout that whole process. Because one of the things is that, first of all, most of the time I was just like blown away by, like, because I visualized this, I put it down on paper in words, so it's in long form, and then now these things are coming to life in full color, and it was blowing me away. But the woman Laris, first of all, this is pre Moana, right? I had this idea like pre Moana, the Disney movie, and I remember just being like because originally it was just Tumel was going to be the person in the lead, and I was just like, and there's not enough women representation, and just talking to folks, my sisters and other folks, like, where the women leads, and once again, like, things luckily are shifting in that right direction. But then it was like, what's her name? And Laris is a place in Puerto Rico. So I'm not Puerto Rican myself, but I grew up with Boricuas, and my wife is Boricua. And so there's this place in Puerto Rico that is, for those that don't know, Puerto Rico is a colony basically of the United States. And for a while there was a day and a half where the Puerto Ricans rose up and got their independence from Spain. And this was the only time they really, before, like, the indigenous people obviously had the island before then. But then when the Spaniards came through, they were able to get free for a day. And there was this rebellion that came out of Laris, this place in Puerto Rico. And that story always stuck with me. And once again, that revolutionary spirit, just to be like, yo, like, this needs to be at the forefront. Because I always, I have these conversations with my Puerto Rican brothers and sisters, like, why aren't y'all free? Like, why y'all in this, like, kind of limbo stage where you're not a state, but you're not, what I mean, your own country, which trips me out. And for me, I'm just like, get free, just like Cape Verde got free, y'all could get free. But it's complicated. And I just wanted to, just because of colorism, right? In Cape Verde, you see it because we were colonized by Portuguese. There's a lot of shade, right, of Black folks in Cape Verde to even white folks, because it's a nationality, right? And I always noticed, and it always bothered me, that some of the light-skinned folks who are able to pass would pass. And why were they passing? And so there's a story not only of Laris, but her uncle, right, and not giving too much away, who had a different idea of his identity, and it's to the detriment, because at the end of the day, we all came from Africa, y'all. That's scientifically proven. So what's the problem here? Like, just accept that, and then realize that, like, yo, we all one human people, right? And so why don't we get back to that? So that's part of this story, and I wanted the Black women to see themselves, my daughter to see herself, Mike's daughter to see herself in this representation of this heroine, to say, like, yeah, I could be like Laris. And it's dope to have, like, I had someone who gave the book to her daughter, and she was like, her daughter went through the book like really quick, and she was just like, when's the next one? And she was a young Black woman. And we've had a lot of those experiences where the feedback is coming back, where kids are like, I'm glad I'm finally seeing myself. And this is what I was prompting, right? It was like, this was the intention. And now we're getting to get the fruits of our labor by paying attention to that representation.
Thank you both for that. I kind of want to move now to how did you guys get picked up by Dark Horse? How did that come about? What was the emotion or the feeling like at that time when you did get picked up by Dark Horse? And without necessarily saying everything that's going to move, it's going to transpire in the future. After this is done, I mean, what's the next step, if you would?
Tim, do you want me to take the first part of the question, and you can take the second?
Yeah.
So back in 2005, I self-published this book called Black Mane, which won this award at the time, which is called the Zarek Award, which was this self-publishing grant that was given out by Peter Laird, who was one of the Ninja Turtle founders. So this is back in the day. He was doing this annually. So there was a crop of young artists who wanted to self-publish, and this was like, you got this cash award. So I published this book, and I decided to go on sort of like a tour of independent comic conferences, and one of them eventually led me to Portland, Oregon. And it was there I met this editor from Dark Horse. And since 2005 to now, I had constantly been keeping up with him, pitching things, sort of, really keeping that relationship going. And it wasn't until like a couple of years ago when we had this book where I said, hey, I've got this finished book, because usually I would pitch, hey, I got this idea for, like The Predator doing something, or Conan or something. I was trying to kind of fit myself into what they were doing. But this time I was like, hey, this author and we just did a Kickstarter. The book is completely finished. It was successful. Will you take a look at this? And he looked at it, and from the get-go, he was really positive about it. And I was really reluctant to be excited about it, because, it seemed like things were moving forward. And when it's, long story short, when we actually like signed the contract and stuff, it was exhilarating. And I don't know how to it's that feeling when you've been working towards something for so long and then it happens, and you sort of you celebrate it, but then you like realize now we got to the next level. Like I just leveled up, and now it's like I just grew. I just became something that, it's like the different version of a Pokemon. I just like evolved to my next level. And there's something really like intense and beautiful about that. And that's sort of the space I'm in right now, Tim. I'll tell you, I feel like I'm at like 2.0 right now. I'm Mike 2.0, and I'm ready for the next phase. And you know, it's I'm excited about it. And Tim's going to tell you about the future.
Yeah. The
Gotcha,
next,
gotcha.
yeah. And I gotta say, same thing, like just scream. I remember just screaming here, like, yeah, you know what I mean? Because it was a bucket list, as Mike pointed out. And we grew up reading Dark Horse comics, and one of the manga, Lone Wolf and Cub, to me is like one of the greatest manga of all times. And to be on, the same label, if you will, but the same publisher as that, is really it's surreal to an extent. And it's cool when people get it, right? Because some people, you say Dark Horse, they're like, oh, okay, that's cool, and then other people are like, yo, what, that's big, I mean, I'm like, yeah, it is big, and we're gassed about it. And then the next step, because we're connected with Van Jones, who's like a CNN political commentator, he did the forward. He actually, he's shopping this as for a movie. That's the plan, from jump, was that this would become, whether it's animated or a live feature film. That had always been also the intention. I love movies as much as I love comics, and to one day, see this up there, to get it out there, get the story out there, on the silver screen, is another one of our dreams. And it's dope that it's being pitched. And I can't give all the details as of yet, but it's moving, at such a quick speed, at a speed that has us excited, that the momentum is moving, even though we know that, these things take years, right? And so, but we're really optimistic, because we've found a lot of people that just, sometimes I just give people the book and they're like, is this going to be a movie? And I'm like, word, like, once again, not even prompted. And people are saying like, yeah, they could see it as a movie. And that's important for us, because we're going to be pitching, right? And whether it's streaming, we had another meeting with one of the other streaming places, and some of these major studios is where we're pitching right now. And hopefully, fingers crossed, that it eventually does get picked up. And so that's the plan in the future.
Also,
Man,
there's more books
go
in the
ahead,
future.
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say,
So,
there's
no, say it again.
yeah. So this is planned as a series of books. So this is the first book, and then it could be 3 to 4 more.
Yeah.
Depends on how Tim writes them.
Three more to come, because we, what I do, just to give people real quick, is I map out the whole arc, man. I know where this whole thing ends. That was one of the feedback I got from a mentor way back. And so it's really important to know how the story ends. And for me, that's how I do it. Is like, hey, like, this is where it ends, and now I'm building these bridges, I would say, to these points. And so when we had a retreat, a writer's retreat, I thought it was going to be 3 books, but it became apparent, just because of where the story wants to go and how big it is. Like, we're dealing with like the moon, and we're dealing with like these sky people. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot going on in these next books. But it's so it's going to be four books, and ideally maybe 4 movies. Who knows? You know what I mean? So that's we're hopeful and optimistic, because this story definitely wants to get told, and at some point, I believe it will.
That is huge, man. I didn't mean to necessarily pull that up out of you, but that's huge. That's very great. And I will be one of the ones, and I'm not just saying this, will be one of the ones, but that will be praying for that success, because again, that representation universally needs to be put out there in that regard, because you're right, we don't have enough of that on the big screen. We don't have enough of that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's huge, man. That's very big. That is
Yeah.
very big.
And we don't mind sharing it, man, because we know that, like, for me, it's like, if our dreams combine, if our dreams come together, then there's a bigger chance that it's going to happen. And what I've always said, the only thing I've said when I'm having these conversations, like, I want the youth of New Bedford and the youth, where this started, to have a shot at casting, of being a part of it. Like, and I'm telling the youth, because I'm telling them too, I'm like, bring your A game, because if y'all ain't up to par, we're not gonna have, that one kid, like, man, that movie was great, but that kid couldn't act. No, like, we know that there's talented kids in Newbie. We know there's talented kids, you know, in every hood. And so the point is that bring the A game, and, you know, your dream could become our dream can become your dream. And then, you know, it's a win-win all around.
Absolutely. This has been very insightful for me, just learning a lot of the nuances and, you know, the backdrop, what you guys had to go through somewhat to get to where you are now. And it all culminated with the fact that now you are you know, settled with Dark Horse, and of course, you got the Van. And I forgot to ask you about the Van Jones thing. I'm glad you mentioned it though, but I forgot to ask you about that because I did read where he wrote a forward, correct?
Yeah.
In the book. That's also phenomenal. That's really great to have people to kind of co-sign, you know, that particular work. That's really great to have that. But you mentioned it, so we won't go we won't go back and talk about that, right?
Yeah.
But we're almost at that time where we're going to kind of close it out. Um, so here we're going to talk a little bit about where you can be reached. So give website addresses. This also be put in the show notes and everything, right? So people can actually be able to click on the links and go straight to it. But I just want you guys to kind of vocalize it where you can be found, if it's social media handles or if it's a straight website or something like that. Just go ahead and kind of tell the listeners where they can actually find you and locate you. And
Yeah.
either person can start. It doesn't matter. Make a difference.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I'll say, you know, planetablu.com is where you'll find every little link. And so it's like planet with an A, right? Planeta, and then blue without the E, you know, and just its own unique IP, if you will, intellectual property.
It's right behind you, right on the
Right behind me. Yeah, Planeta Blue. Boop. .com is where you can go. And then if you just want to go right to the social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or, you know, X, Twitter or whatever, you can do that. But it's Planeta Blue Book, BOOK. Is you know, the / Planeta Blue Book. And, you know, Mike and I are active on social media too. And, you know, and we respond. We're real people like everybody else out there. You know, we're busy, but not that busy, meaning that we want to hear from folks, and, you know, any type of connection. We're also working on an audio book too, and still looking for some voice actors. So reach out, y'all. Let's have a conversation. Let's stay connected. It's always about community. And so, yeah, planetablu.com. That's where you could go and find everything you need.
All right, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, and then we have our own websites too. If you want to go to MikeLaricia.com, you can see my work, that kind of thing. You know, for me, Instagram is the thing I update the most. So if you're looking for more like the most current thing that I'm working on, that's just Mike.Laricia, I think that's the handle.
Yeah.
LARICCIA.
Sorry, and I'll say too, just a plug for the music, man. You know, Temblessed, TEMBLESSED on, you know, Apple Stream and Spotify, whatever you stream, you could hear some of the music, which is, you know, socially conscious hip hop music. I'm working on some new stuff because that's what we got to do and always want to do, especially with what's happening in the world. You know, I'm always one of those people, like, I don't want to add more, you know, confusion or more noise. Let's say that, you know, I want to actually, if I hear like, hey, this isn't being said, then I want to say something to address how I'm feeling, because I'm sure there's other people that are feeling that same way. And so, yeah, check it out with Temblessed out there, so we can stay connected.
Yes, yes, yes. And make sure again, once you guys, the listening audience, hears this particular specific podcast about Tim Blast and Mike Laricia and their work with Planeta Blue, listen, man, share, comment, do everything possible to make sure that this particular episode gets out there, because we definitely want to be able to see this reach the height that, you know, Tim and Mike has planned for it. We definitely want to see that. And for those that are interested, make sure that you go to the website, pick up the copy of the book, and just begin to talk about it a little bit more. I think that's something that needs to be done in more circles. We need to talk about that. There's a lot of black authors out there. There's a lot of, I hate to use the term, people of color, authors out there, BIPOC or whatever, uh, out there right now that are writing some phenomenal work, right? In the vein of what Tim has decided to write, some very, very conscious um, material where you can actually think. It's not about the salacious books where people just writing whatever, again, just to get a dollar. We got enough of that everywhere. That's in the music, it's in the movies, it's in books. All we got enough of that. We need to try to make a change, which is what Mike and Tim are trying to do. So make that change. Pick up that particular work from the both of them, and go and give them some more reviews. There are some reviews on the website right now that you can go and read, and just get inspired by those reviews and the artwork and the background of the story and things like that. So you definitely want to be able to do that. But I want to thank you guys, man. This has been very incredible. I know it kind of started off kind of crazy. It initially was going to be a call, but I thought to myself, I said, wait a minute, I want people to see these guys, right? Because when I saw the book and the artwork and the cover and I saw the video, I said, no, we can't just do this just audio. We have to do this video, right?
Thank you so
Right.
much. Appreciate
Absolutely.
that.
And we had to, and it's interesting that I decided to make that move because one of the things I looked at, the first thing I looked at when you guys popped up was Tim's background.
Yeah.
you know, the advertisement and everything back there, right? Big
Yep.
bold poster where you can really see it. And just even just through the camera, the artwork pops, right? So it speaks a lot. You can see a lot of the detail right there with the artwork. So again, man, thank you guys. Um, as always, I try to invite people back. I'm busy myself, but I definitely want to know what the next phase is, right? So there's always an invite. You guys have my email. If you want
Mhm.
to reach out again and say, hey, we got something else going on, you definitely have the invite to come on. Uh, I've officially adopted you both as brothers. Tim is definitely my hip hop brother, right? Dropped all that juice, man. I'm gonna go listen to some old school after we get off of this, right? But man, this has been phenomenal. This has been very great, and I just want to thank you guys again and everybody that is behind you to keep to have them to keep pushing you guys forward, right? And man, so with that being said, any parting words that either one of you guys have that you want to leave with the listening audience?
Go ahead, Mike. Go
Well,
ahead.
I just want to. We deeply appreciate everyone that supported us so far. The Dark Horse edition of the book is set to release on November 21st, so you can pre-order it. And like you said, Daryl, like if anybody can help with sharing this, getting the word out, we are totally sure that when people see this, that they will sort of fall in love with the project. So we're really just trying to get people to see it. And for anybody who has helped or supported us, it means the world to us. Thank you.
Yeah, and for me, my only words, Mike said it, but is also just commit to your dream and dream big. We need more people dreaming big. We can't allow these few people that are creating this nightmare of reality for a lot of folks to continue. It needs more dreamers, more people then taking that dream and actualizing it. And for us, this wouldn't have been possible if we didn't just commit to it, even through all the obstacles and all the challenges and all the struggle, to say, like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be a man of my word and just manifest this. And here we are, and it's going to continue. And so we need more people to be inspired. So don't give up. Just keep pushing. And let's make this world the world that we want to live in.
Absolutely. Again, thank you guys for showing up to the show and giving all this great information and everything. I definitely thank you a lot. Hey, and I could put a picture in for the oil baron, the tycoon, as the voice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right.
You
Yeah.
know,
All
I got
right.
you. So
I'm gonna hit you up.
I'm a oil. Give me your money now. But man, again, it's Planeta Blu is the website. Go there. Go there now. And you said the release, Mike, is
November
November the
21st. Yeah, you can go on Amazon.com, Target, Walmart,
like
and you
pre-order.
pre-order. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So pre-order is available. Will be available.
It's
November
already
21st.
available now.
Oh, it's already available. Okay, got you. So the actual launch is November the 21st. for you to
Correct.
get there. Okay, got you.
And in the
So
meantime, we got a few limited edition
Yeah.
joints. This one's once
The-
these are gone, they gone for good. And then
That's
we
the
how many
original
pages?
printing that we did with the Kickstarter.
How many pages, by the way?
252.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's not
big.
bad. Yeah, that's not bad. You can read that all in one setting, man. Knock
Yeah,
that out real quick.
Goes
Um,
fast.
right.
and of course, posters.
Yeah.
The poster, man, is crazy. So I mean, you selling posters as well, or no?
Yeah, I mean the posters have even we did have some. We need to figure out a way to send them out because they become a little challenging in the mail. But we still got the poster on design on deck, and we usually have them at the conferences. So once you come through, we'll let y'all know too. When we're always posting when we have conferences, when we're going to be in conferences. So come through, then we'll have the posters there. Mailing
You guys
them.
need to make your way down to Atlanta, man.
What's
They'll get
that?
down there.
Yeah.
You guys have something. I think BlurredCon is down in Atlanta.
Yeah, BlurredCon is down here. Yeah, I think BlurredCon is down here, and then they had Comic-Con and some other things
Yeah.
that's down here. There's a lot of people that read a lot of manga stuff down here.
We're going to be coming down. Believe you, we're going to do a tour once this book drops. We coming through. That's for sure. We'll have the
Got
posters.
you.
And we'll have some merch. Sweat. We got the track suits. T-shirts. All
Yeah,
that.
I saw the suits. I saw the
Yeah,
suit.
yeah.
Yeah, it was dope.
So,
All right, man. Again, this has been the All Things Black podcast. I've been your host, Daryl Barnes, and we are out.
peace.